Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be going through the detailed revision notes for regenerating places as a revision guide for you, I guess. So this is originally based on the Edexcel specification, but I'm sure it will be useful for the other exam boards. But this is exactly what the Edexcel is asking for, so it is more applicable for that. Just going to be upfront and honest about it, but I know there are units in the OCR and the AQA specs that will take parts of this as well. So I hope you enjoy. Subscribe down below if you do. I will leave a link in the description to the notes that I'm using and the notes that I created when I was doing this myself during my A-levels. It's in the description box below on a website called Coffee. I'll leave it down below, you can check them out yourself. But without further ado, let's get straight on into this video. Describing a location. Types of places. Places can be categorised into types, though a single place may fit into many different categories. Firstly, near places, those which are close to us. Near places are subjective, however. A woman living in the Australian outback may consider a place that's 100 kilometres away to be near, due to the ability to directly drive between settlements across the outback. In the UK, a place that's 1,000 kilometres away may take several hours to travel to and may be considered as a far place. On the other hand, far places, those that are distant. Both near and far places have more emotional meaning. Some people may get homesick if they're staying away for the first time in their lives, even if they're only a 10-minute drive away. They may feel far away emotionally, even when they're physically close. Experienced places. These are places that we've actually visited. Some people would argue that you have to visit a place to have an emotional attachment to it. Others would suggest that a desire to visit a place or dislike towards it because of what you've seen through the media is enough to create an emotional attachment. And then media places. Places we have not visited but may have learned about through the media representation. For example, the musician Vancouver Sleep Music chose his artist name because he had experienced Vancouver as a media place and thought it looked like a beautiful place. There are also different functions of a location which will affect the employment opportunities, businesses and industries, as well as the built environment. Administrative. These are places that make decisions about how to organise infrastructure and economic activity for the surrounding areas. Administrative areas tend to be cities and towns that have influence throughout a borough or region surrounding them. For example, Manchester's influence in the northwest or London's influence in the southeast. Commercial locations. This is a location with a strong business influence. Many TNCs may have their bases here, and there is a large volume of small and large scale businesses. A retail area. A town or city with attractive retail facilities, markets, shopping centres, unique shops. The retail industry is the main source of income here and has a lot of employment for local people. Industrial areas are locations whose economic reputation is predominantly based on the industrial capacity. For example, Birmingham was once known as the Black Country for its large industries of iron and steel works. The name is based on the smoke industries it produced. Perspectives on places. Insiders are those who feel at home within and may have the following characteristics. They're born in a location, they hold citizenship for a location, they're fluent in the local language and conform with the IDOMs. These are language relating to a specific location or culture, the things that you pick up on when you're in a certain area. Slang, another word for it. For example, to kill two birds with one stone might be a complicated phrase for migrants to understand. Some IDOMs may be specific to places. You'll see it where you are, but I'll leave a link to the London Dictionary of Slang, so that's something that you might be able to pick up on in London. But in Liverpool, for example, there are other things that people say that wouldn't really be as normal other parts of the country. And then these people also conform with social norms and behavioural traits in common with the people in their area. Outsiders are the opposite to insiders. Lots of factors can contribute to make someone feel like an insider or an outsider of a place. This feeling of belonging can also change over time. It can be the case that people that do not have the main ethnic group of a community feel like they're outsiders. For example, an immigrant family who move to a neighbourhood where they're the ethnic minority, which combined with other factors may cause the family to feel like outsiders. Initially, they may not be accustomed to the culture, social norms, dialect, as the majority of the community are. The shops and restaurants in the high street may not be familiar to them. They may find it hard to find particular foods which they had in their country of origin. The architecture of the buildings and the vehicles may look different to what they're used to. These feelings could be similar to when you go on holiday and your surroundings are different to usual. These feelings of unfamiliarity may change in the long term. As the family get used to living in that place and integrate into the society, they can start to feel like insiders. The children of this immigrant family will have a different experience of place to their parents, leading to a unique sense of place for the area in which they live. In the UK, there is a pattern whereby ethnic groups cluster in certain areas, potentially because people feel more at home when they're surrounded by other people of the same ethnicity. The clustering means that the area will adapt towards that culture over time, which may attract more people from that ethnicity to the area. Perspectives of place may also change, so that people begin to feel like outsiders, even if they originally identified as insiders of a place. For example, large influxes of immigrants into an area can change the characteristics of a place. The high street may change as shops and restaurants adapt over time to cater for new cultures, which can make the original residents feel like they're outsiders and their area starts to become unfamiliar. Alternatively, some people may embrace the multiculturalism and the changes that occur as a result of immigration, like the diversity of their high street. And diversity actually makes some places more appealing, such as Chinatown in London and Liverpool. Economic structures. There are different sectors of employment: primary, secondary, tertiary and quaternary. Each different sector has different values to the government, to produce products or services and present employees with different risks and opportunities. The primary sector, a collection of raw materials or production of essential goods, such as fishing, farming, energy production. Primary is the most essential sector, as the rest of the population rely on it for food, electricity and water. Each primary worker is subjected to different working conditions, depending on what they collect or produce. However, primary employment is labour intensive, and so it presents risks to physical health and some to mental health. UK rural farmers can face isolation and depression, as recent studies have shown. Secondary employment. This is manufacturing of raw materials, most commonly into commercial goods and machinery. Secondary employment may offer high, more regular income, as factories offer annual rather than seasonal work. However, exploitation of workers is most common in factories, where employees may be subjected to long hours, dangerous chemicals or a hazardous environment. Heavy machinery may catch in your hair, the building may collapse, like Bangladesh's Rana Plaza. The tertiary employment sector. This is the provision of services such as education, operating government departments, managing business or selling product. Tertiary employment can offer better progression opportunities and even higher salaries than primary or secondary employment, but is often office-based with regulated hours and limited outdoor interactions. And then quaternary. Quaternary is a relatively new sector regarding technology-based employment, such as high-tech scientific research, finance, IT, computer programming, etc. Quaternary roles can be skill demanding. You must be educated and have expertise in the area to receive a job. Similar to tertiary, quaternary jobs can be office-based, so limited environmental and social interactions. The Clark-Fisher model describes the stages a country may progress through as they become more economically developed. Pre-industrial model. The pre-industrial. The majority of the workforce were in the primary sector, with a small percentage of the total population in the secondary industry. This may have been due to a lack of infrastructure or investment, preventing a country from constructing factories and establishing manufacturing industries. The industrial stage, the middle bit. The proportion of employees in the primary sector may begin to decline, as land is taken up by manufacturing and imports as they become more feasible. During these periods of time, internal rural to urban migration may occur, as families seek a better quality of life by earning a secondary job. And then the post-industrial stage. After a country industrialises, the proportion of people working in the primary sector decreases significantly. Secondary jobs also decline, but at a much slower rate. However, there is a big increase in the number of people in the tertiary and quaternary industry, as the demand for entertainment, holidays and technology increases, with individuals' disposable income as that rises too. Place character. Place character refers to the specific qualities, attributes or features of a location that make it unique. Place character is affected by endogenous and exogenous factors. Endogenous factors, which originate from within the place and are local. The land use, is it urban or rural? The topography, the relief and where the water, the relief and the lie of the land, so how steep it is. The physical geography, are there waterfalls? Is the area urban or is it an estuary? The infrastructure, these are services that enhance and are essential to living conditions. These are things like roads, railways, canals, airports, Broadway, phone networks, water supply, sewers, electrical grids, parks, public pools, schools, hospitals, libraries, education, healthcare provision, local government, law enforcement, emergency services. That is the infrastructure. And demographic characteristics, so things like age, gender, number of people, ethnicity, the age of the population. The built environment, so this is the architecture of the area. Is it contemporary? Is it aging? Is it historical? The location, so the elevation, the distance from the coast, the closeness to a port, the closeness to airports. And then the economic characteristics. Is it a city that's in debt? Is it in a growth market? Is it got an aging industry? What about the economic sectors? And then the exogenous factors. Those which originate from outside a place and provide linkages and relationships with and to other people and places. Exogenous factors are commonly referred to as flows of people, of money and investment, of resources and of ideas. The characteristics of a location may change for a variety of endogenous and exogenous causes. The physical location. The proximity to large cities and economic zones may encourage economic development. And the reputation. The attractiveness of an area may influence the assistance and funding it receives. Infrastructure. Roads, motorways, airports allow the migration of people and movement of goods to previously inaccessible locations. Competition. TNCs relocating to the best regions. This brings new investment and a large labour pool. Alternatively, competition from other locations offering a better work environment will take businesses and investment away from a location. The role of planning by governments and stakeholders is also another factor. Government strategies to restructure the economy, such as increasing student numbers, filling skills shortages, becoming self-reliant in energy or food production. And then the economy. The function of a place may change, moving from administrative to commercial to retail to industrial and any of those orders. Measuring change. You can measure change in a location using different factors and indices. Factors include land use changes, so reduction in abandoned land, industrial to the residential ratio. Employment trends, so changes in employment types, unemployment rates, that kind of thing. Demographic changes, so inward or outward migration. And then economic productivity, so money generated or the value of products per person. Alternatively, you could measure using a variety of factors using an index, such as the index of multiple deprivation. The index of multiple deprivation measures income, employment, education, health, crime, barrier to housing and services, the living environment. An increase of the IOMD score could be an improvement of one of these factors or a combination of these factors. Inequality. When looking at different factors about a place, there may be differences or inequalities between different areas within that place, or there may be differences between that location compared with other areas of the country. These inequalities could be caused by different factors. Occupational hazards. So people who work in manual labour jobs generally earn less than professionals in managerial positions, and their life expectancy is also generally lower due to the physical strain of their work. Income. There is significant inequality of pay between employment sectors. Primary employment earns the least on average, and often incomes are seasonal, whereas tertiary and quaternary employment have some of the highest earners. This is historically due to the skills and education required for each role. The life expectancy and general health. There is a positive correlation between the life expectancy and income of an individual. There are many reasons for this. The type of employment, whether it be manual and exposure to chemicals. The affordability of food, so processed food can sometimes actually be cheaper than home cooked. Plus, in some occupations, people don't have the time to cook from scratch. Processed foods can have high saturated fats and sugars, leading to diabetes. And then stereotypical lifestyles. In certain regions and occupations, workers may adopt a lifestyle such as drinking, smoking, fry-up cafe food in accordance with social norms. And educational attainment. Educational outcomes are strongly linked to income because wealthier families are able to afford extra tuition and university places. Low-income families, especially in LICs, may be unable to improve their living conditions because they cannot afford further education to attain a higher salary and more skilled employment. In turn, low-income parents are more likely to take children out of education at an early age, for the children to earn a wage and contribute to the family income. Hence, it can be a cycle of generations not achieving higher education. Identifying large inequalities in facilities or living conditions could highlight a need for improvement or policy making. Regeneration strategy. There are many strategies to improve a location through regeneration. A regeneration project can focus on constructing infrastructure, developing existing and new housing, encouraging investment, etc. Strategies have different benefits and risks. Examples of regeneration strategies in the UK include construction of infrastructure, so the HS2, Heathrow expansion, Crossrail, retail-led regeneration, so the Liverpool waterfront, marketing, heritage and culture, such as the Glastonbury Musical Festival, multi-ethnic festivals like Notting Hill Carnival or the New Year fireworks in London, the construction of housing or development of new settlements, such as in Milton Keynes, and sustainable communities. Infrastructure. Infrastructure projects are generally very expensive and require government funding. Most projects are public-private partnerships. The government provides the majority of the capital needed, while private companies fulfil and manage the plans. Different government departments can be involved in regeneration projects. Local councils aim to improve their borough, especially to attract new businesses, increase housing, or regenerate a problematic location. The Department for Culture, Media and Sport, which markets the UK's image abroad. This department will have contributed to the London Olympic Park regeneration project, as well as Commonwealth projects in Manchester, Glasgow, Birmingham in 2022. DEFRA, which aims to improve declining rural villages, protect eroding coastlines and the agricultural industry, and then the UK Trade Investment, which supports UK businesses to try and attract more foreign investment. Examples of infrastructure projects in the UK include HS2. This is a proposed high-speed rail network which will connect London to Birmingham and then Manchester to Leeds. This project is expected to cost £43 billion, let me get that right, but so far the project has gone way over budget. Its aim is to reduce travel times and improve connectivity between the north and the south of England. It's estimated 60,000 jobs are expected to be created. And the expansion of Heathrow Airport, building a third runway. It's expected to cost just under £20 billion, which will be privately funded and create 70,000 new jobs. However, many MPs, local residents and environmental NGOs oppose the project, as it will increase traffic travelling through Heathrow and pollution. The benefits: high volume of jobs created, and then improving transport links, which can improve migration and trade links, improving economic activity. And then the costs and risks. These can be risky, as their costs can increase with inflation or changing circumstances, and often they aren't sustainable due to the large volumes of concrete needed to be used and the CO2 output that brings. Housing, suburban new builds. With a rising population, the demand for housing is increasing beyond the supply of houses available for sale or rent. There is an inequality of opportunities to access housing, and the limited supply of social housing is growing despite a growing proportion of the population who need it. This is due to a lack of social housing. After Margaret Thatcher's Right to Buy scheme, large amounts of social housing were bought by the occupants for considerably less than the market value. Millions of houses were sold under this scheme. However, few new houses were built to replace them. Now people who would have been placed in social housing, houses owned by the government, where they would pay low rent, are put in private housing. Rent in private housing is often very expensive and isn't affordable for low-income individuals or families. The government is spending billions a year on housing benefits. These housing benefits help to top up a person's income to help pay their rent. In 2017, the government spent $25 billion on housing benefits, which is 10% of their entire welfare budget. There are also large numbers of empty, derelict properties, especially in the inner city areas, where brownfield land is more expensive to develop than greenfield. Lots of private companies and investors buy this land, sit on it when either the land price increases or they get planning permission to build on it. Overseas investment by properties in the UK, and that has seen house prices rise. And then there's also an increasing number of affluent people who have brought second properties to rent out as an investment. The increase in buy-to-let properties has also reduced the number of properties available, which has also increased property prices and the price of rent. This is especially difficult for first-time buyers. There have been recent frameworks developed by the government to increase supply, setting a target number of houses for local councils to provide. This has seen rapid new build developments in the aim of regenerating suburban towns to encourage migration and economic growth. Often these are found in the suburbs as towns or cities due to large, cheap expanses of land available, while they are also close in proximity to the job opportunities of the city centre. Developers are obliged to provide a variety of houses, so these developments may contain a mix of properties to buy, rent, shared ownership of a variety of sizes. These new large estates provide a new large volume of houses, but they don't build new services or facilities for this settlement, like greengrocers or doctors' surgeries. This can put stress on existing services such as schools, who must cater for an influx of school children to educate. There is also heavy criticism about the development's sustainability. Habitat loss and environmental degradation of greenfield land, air and noise pollution for locals by lorries, and encouraging outward migration from rural regions to suburbs. Housing, gentrification in the inner city. In recent years, the benefits of gentrification and high-value properties has encouraged more inner-city development projects by constructors. The high costs of clearing and preparing brownfield sites, land already used for residential and industrial purposes, can be compensated by building high-value apartments. Regeneration projects occur in nearly all major cities, in the aim of attracting wealthy investors, who might spend their money locally or establish businesses here. Local governments rely on the trickle-down theory for the benefits of gentrification. The investor will spend money in services in the local businesses, who will directly benefit from increased sales. The workers may spend their increased disposable income on other local businesses, therefore increasing revenue, which will be shared between multiple businesses. Both the investor and the businesses will pay more tax, so the local council will have more to spend on services such as schools, doctors, infrastructure, and improvements such as road sweeps and improving local parks, for which everyone in the local area will benefit. However, the reality of the trickle-down theory can be argued. Industrial regeneration. retail, leisure and tourism. Some of the most successful regeneration projects have focused on the rebranding of development of culture in the UK. For example, the regeneration of East London with the aim of hosting the International Olympics and Paralympics, creating high quality sports facilities. Many retail parks are built on disused industrial land, such as the Trafford Centre in Manchester, Salford Quays or Liverpool Waterfront. The rebranding of some declining cities such as Belfast, Glasgow, Blackpool to attract investment, tourism and inward migration. Rural regeneration. It's not just cities that experience economic decline, deindustrialisation and outward migration. Rural regions can be some of the most deprived areas in the UK due to the lack of opportunities for young people in education and employment, social isolation of minority groups, and physical isolation from services and public transport. Industries which were once the centre of a town's economy, such as coal mines, have been shutting down, leaving towns to enter into a spiral of decline. Rural regeneration can develop services, transport links, or improve the economy of a town or village. However, the success of rural regeneration varies. For example, Bronte Country. Rural villages which tie English literature and heritage receive large and national and international numbers of tourists, which can benefit local businesses and local people. In Halworth, regeneration is focused on attracting more tourists by refronting shops in a Victorian style and running projects. The Eden Project. The Eden Project is a sustainable development in Cornwall with the aim of attracting tourists and providing employment and economic opportunities for local Cornish businesses. Built from an abandoned clay pit, the Eden Project has contributed £700 million in local economic growth and will soon provide renewable geothermal activity for 7,000 local homes. And Kielder Forest. This lakeside retreat has developed a campsite, rented accommodation and an astronomical observatory, which attracts tourists all year round. However, Kielder can become snowed in and attractions close due to adverse weather conditions. Rural agriculture may diversify too, providing specialised produce or outdoor activity centres. For example, farms may have a farm shop, a maze, paintballing or other outside activities. National governance, policy making. The national government can change its policies regarding migration, capital markets, encouraging businesses, etc. Policies can strengthen or create uncertainty for local and national economies. Migration. The government can encourage international migration to fill gaps in employment or attract wealthy individuals through investor visa schemes. It may be necessary for a government to restrict migration to avoid strain on public services. The deregulation of markets. By deregulating, a government reduces its control over a particular industry or service. This may mean private companies purchase previously state-owned businesses, or sudden competition between businesses accelerate. And then creating business environments. The creation of specialised industry parks can create businesses to move to a region or a new startup. Investors may be domestic or international, depending on the attraction to the region, workforce availability, technology availability and reputation. Measuring the success of regeneration. The best measure of how successful a regeneration scheme depends on the focus of improvements. Economic regeneration can be measured by comparing employment rates, the local economy's size, industrial productivity before and after the scheme. Social improvements may involve increased life expectancy, literacy rates, decreased applicants for social housing, reductions in social tensions or lifestyle changes such as smoking habits, obesity, types of food bought. Improvement to the living environment included reduced air pollution, abandoned land utilised, or an increase in green open spaces. The sustainability of a scheme may be measured in the volume of carbon dioxide emitted, proportion of greenfield to brownfield sites used, the number of jobs created, how long the scheme is expected to benefit local people, and then the overview. Regenerating places is a different kind of unit than others you'll study. There are concepts and knowledge to learn, but less than in other units. Changing places is based around people and more conceptual and contextual. Attempt to apply the concepts you've learned to places that you know. Regenerating places covers a sociology aspect of geography. You'll need to study at least one local place where you live or have conducted fieldwork, and you'll also need 2 contrasting places, which have the idea of local, regional, national and international connections. These 2 places should form case studies. And that is the end of this video. I hope you have enjoyed. It has been a bit shorter than the rest of the detailed revision ones, but that's just because of what I've said. There's not as much knowledge for this, but this can be applied to whatever case study you're using. For me, when I was in school, we did Liverpool because it was our closest area, and there was massive regeneration schemes in 2008 as a result of the Capital of Culture. But you may also look at the East Village in London. We looked at Cornwall and the rural regeneration that was going on there. But yeah, this is a very much an application unit, I guess. But I do still hope this has been helpful. Do subscribe down below, and don't forget to leave me any questions. If you have any exam questions that you'd like us to kind of go through together, well, I say me to go through, but also there'll be a bit of back and forth. Leave it in a comment below and I can try and make a video on it. Or if you would prefer one-to-one tutoring, I also offer that. Not 100%, I can't do it for everyone, but I do have quite a few evenings free during my week. That is obviously a paid service, but if that is something you would be interested in, just drop me a message on Instagram and we can figure out what you think might be helpful for you. But thank you so much for watching. I do hope you have found this useful. Do subscribe down below, and I will see you in my next one. Bye guys.